I wanted to talk today about how to start a kids enrichment business specifically that has after school programs. There are a lot of things to consider when you have programs that are specifically working with kids after they get out of school. So if I had to start over again from scratch in 2026, there are some things that I would do differently and a few things I did in the beginning that accelerated our growth and success that I wanted to share. A few people have reached out to me from the podcast, and some are starting their journey to get going. I want to start with the decision you have to make before you do anything, which is what model you want to have. You can have a facility-based business or studio-based, or you can have a mobile business where you go to schools and you go to places. And I've talked to people that do both, and that do one or the other, that started with one, now do the other. And there are real upsides and just different considerations. But the real upside to being studio based is that you aren't just limited to that hour after school when most enrichment programs run. You get to make your own schedule. You can stack programs. The community comes to you, and you can have weekend programs, all those different things. And if we just look at it on the surface, some of us might be resistant or a little trepidatious about having the overhead of a commercial lease and the bills that come with that. But over time, you might want to compare, because for those of us who work in schools and have the mobile or itinerant business, we still have to pay facility fees, rental fees for most of our partnerships. If I were getting started today, I would start with charter schools, independent schools, because most of them are very flexible with charging fees. So if you're just getting started and every dollar counts, that would be an angle I would start with, the local charter school in your community. If you're not at those schools, the rest of the schools are going to charge. So you have to do your analysis of the numbers, like what makes sense for your situation when you scale to a certain level, or you're at a ceiling where you can't scale beyond what you're currently doing, given your mobile model, that it may be time to do the math on a studio-based model. So that's one thing. And the relationship management is different. So yeah, there are a lot of different considerations in that area. One thing about the mobile enrichment business is that it is harder to scale, and it is also harder to start, but it's cheaper. So uh, it's also harder to find good advice for and good resources for. When you have a facility, that takes out some scheduling complexity. It also makes it so that you can quality check what's happening in your programs from every moment. You could just look. I'll have 15 going each day during the school year. I can't be in 15 schools at once. Um, so I have to choose, and it's hard. So yeah, that's also a consideration. And many people, and even franchises in this area, will offer both models, and lots of beginning enrichment entrepreneurs in space will start off with mobile businesses and then build up their reputation, right? And build up their customer base and all that. And then they establish roots and then have a facility, and then they can do both. So, but when you're in a mobile business, know that the complexity that comes with that, um, is it makes it harder to sustain and to create systems and organization for. So just keep that in mind. If I were starting a day, I wouldn't waste so much time trying to configure like platforms and tools that were meant for facility-based businesses for mine. I wouldn't have paid so much for them because it just doesn't work. So yeah, I just would have stayed scrappy until I found the solution that really met the needs of my business. because a lot of time was wasted. Um, the second thing I would do once I figured out, okay, am I going to start off with a studio or just mobile? Um, I would get my first school partnership. So if I'm choosing to be mobile, then I need to figure out who's going to be that first champion that says, okay, I know you. Yes, I'll let you do the program just because I know you. That's how my first program started. And I thought that as a principal, I had a network, that it would be easier, but that didn't have the advantage I thought it would until I went to a science event, a community science night, and I set up a table. I was invited. Uh, I put a bunch of like Lego and different activities on the table and just information. I wasn't even too sure about my offer, but then I saw a previous colleague of mine who's an elementary school principal. He said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I gave him a long list of things because at that point I didn't know exactly what I was doing. So I thought I'll offer you everything. I'll do in-class field trips. I'll do birthday parties. I'll do one-day sessions. I'll do staff community building things. I mean, I was doing so much, like offering just anything I could, anything I thought people would be interested in. And he said, "Oh, you do after school programs? Let's do that. Let's plan one." And so we planned an after school program and a camp. And that was my first partnership. And I found that once I had the first one, the other ones naturally followed, but it took me months just to get that first one. My emails people didn't really respond to, and calls, people need information and to digest that. And when you call a school, you're not going to get the principal's line. You're not going to get through to the principal's line. You're going to get the person who answers the phone, the secretary at the school, and they'll take your message, sure. But, if you're lucky, they'll say, "Oh, send the information to me. I'll look at it and I'll get it to the right person. I'll get it to our PTO handles this. I'll get it to them. Our assistant principal handles this. I'll get it to them." But you have to have something that they can look at that immediately starts to create that trust because you're an unknown to them. Um, so in that area, when you don't have a relationship yet to say, "Oh, we have programs at this location," that's the hard sell. So just find that person who just knows you. And if you have kids like in elementary school, ask the school. If you have a niece or a nephew currently in elementary school, if a school is right up the street from you, "Hey, I'm in the community. I just live a block away." Like something that puts you head and shoulders above someone cold calling from out of state to get their programs into that school. Like what is unique and different about you? Um, so build that first relationship and show up in person as well. You can bring donuts for the staff, just something that makes you memorable. Um, and once you have that, you'll get more momentum. Quick break. I'm building enrops, an all-in-one operations platform built specifically for kids enrichment, entrepreneurs, and operators. I built it because I needed it. Go to getenrops.com to learn more and get on the list. Okay, back to the episode. So what I would advise you to do is if you're just getting started, just map out your network. Who knows someone in a local elementary school if you are serving elementary students or whatever age range you're serving? Who knows someone, a teacher, an instructional assistant, whatever, some inside person at a school near you. Find that person and get going and ask for the introduction or just reach back out if you already have that yourself. And if not, then you can always just show up and say, "Okay, I don't know anyone that has a relationship I can leverage to have a warm intro. And so I got to go in cold and warm it up as much as possible. And just a tip there is my core belief in how just relationships and work with people is I always want to like give more than I take in the grand scheme of things. And things aren't transactional, evenly, perfectly at all times, but I'm keeping in mind how I can be of value. So you may have to do a lot of research just for that first partnership to figure out, okay, if I don't know anybody at the school down the street and it's the closest to me, I know it'd be a great fit, that I'm going to do all the research I can to find that information about what they actually need. Are they looking for volunteers? Maybe I just do it for free just to start. Like, how can I be of value? Are they having a community cleanup day, fundraiser? Like, how can I start to show up as an active and contributing member of the community, so that when I do make the ask, there's a higher likelihood of me being known to them and having that relationship. So yeah. So consider that. Something else that you'll want to consider is before your first program starts, you do need to have some type of one pager that you're ready to send to the school staff. Just info, how long your program is, what ages, what program types. They might want a menu if possible. Well, which ones can we choose from? Or what's the pricing for different number of weeks? They might have 8-week terms. That's the most common, 8 to 9 weeks in the fall, winter, and spring. Some go up to 12 or 13 weeks per term. So they might want upfront that pricing transparent. That helps in their decision making because they need to know, is that something that they can put in front of their families confidently, knowing that price won't be a huge barrier for the majority of families. They also may want to know, this is something you should consider, scholarships or financial assistance for those who want to participate. However, the full price is prohibitive to their participation. So have Q&A answers ready in your one pager there. And have your class size ratios in your document. You should know that. Before you even start registration, because you got to know when you're going to close it and go to a wait list.